I think most of us saw. I mean, some folks still say that's not what happened, but but what do we do?
I think we need to find moral clarity, in this country. And I just remember after January 6th, you had someone like Mitch McConnell placing the blame on January 6th where it belonged, squarely on Donald Trump's shoulders. And then you started seeing people backtrack that and losing their moral center.
Hello everybody, how are you doing today? We have the ladies of The View, and I'm being nice right now. Quite frankly, what we have here is this murder of crows that seems to have a platform to be able to say whatever the hell they want to say. And of course, this is going to center on the not so great Sunny Hostin, and basically how she runs her mouth, and any chance that she gets. She does get slapped down from time to time, and quite frankly, she should, and we should highlight any time that she says things that are just completely crazy. So why don't we do this today? Let's get on with this video. I'm going to let this run a little bit longer than most people have, because I think it's important that we counter a lot of what's said during this. So let's get going.
President Biden also penned an op-ed warning about the unrelenting effort to rewrite and even erase the history of that day. So is that what happened here? I mean, we all watched.
Yep.
I think most of us saw. I mean, some folks still say that's not what happened, but
And honestly, again, they are going with one narrative, okay? We all saw a lot of the things that happened during January 6th last year. I mean, 4 years ago, pardon me, last year, wow. But no, I'm not going to come up here and say that there was anything good about January 6th. It was absolutely terrible what happened, okay? And even if it was just basically a riot, which it pretty much was, now let's understand, they are going with exactly one narrative, okay? And that is the narrative that January 6th was an insurrection and that Republicans tried to overthrow the government. Now, first off, I've said this before, if conservatives were trying to overthrow the government, there would have been a lot more gunfire, okay? So, no, this was not an attempt basically to overthrow, okay, the government. This basically were people that were whipped up into a frenzy by others into the audience, not Donald Trump. Donald Trump had asked people to go home. There were individuals, okay, within the group, like Ray Epps, okay, who did basically stoke the flames and get people crazy, and you did see basically the Capitol Police leading people through the hallways. So there's another narrative here, and unfortunately, that has gotten out.
But what do we do?
I think we need to find moral clarity, in this country. And I just remember after January 6th, you had someone like Mitch McConnell placing the blame on January 6th where it belonged, squarely on Donald Trump's shoulders. And then you started seeing people backtrack that and losing their moral center. You had Condoleezza Rice, I believe, on this very show saying, we need to move on from January 6th. I say no. You don't move on, because January 6th was an atrocity. It was one of the worst moments in American history.
Okay, now she's about to go off on the deep end here, and again, this is leftist toxicity, at its absolute best, okay? The hyperbole that's going to come out is absolutely and utterly unfounded, and anybody with an ounce of sense knows it. But again, this is how The View runs.
And when you think about the worst moments in American history, like World War II, things that happened, like the Holocaust, chattel slavery, we need to never forget, because past becomes prologue if you forget any race.
I want to ask you.
Now, again, you have to see how she ended up with that statement, okay? How we forget any race, okay? Now, there was absolutely nothing about race that was going on within that. And again, she brought up chattel slavery, which is absolutely and utterly amazing, because that was not one of those things like a happening or something that exploded, and this was, one of the worst things that absolutely happened at that time. This was one of the worst things that happened over decades, okay? It was institutionalized, and it was basically this country's original sin. And if you know anything about the Founding Fathers, you know that they knew it, and that they were hoping that sometime in the future that this country would reach the aspirations that they put into the Constitution. As I said, it's interesting to see how she ended that country on the concept of race. But to even put January 6th into the same category, okay, as the Holocaust is absolutely and utterly insane, okay? And again, it is the type of hyperbole that the left trucks in, okay? They want people to think this way, okay? They want their absolute base to believe this, okay? Because then they can tell them anything, and the people that follow them will believe anything.
Alyssa, because watching your evolution, when you look back, what goes through your mind?
I've been thinking a lot about this. I'll always be proud of Mike Pence for doing the right thing, but it's also an incredibly low bar. It's simply fulfilling the Constitution, just as Kamala Harris is going to do today, as Al Gore did before her. People have lost, and they've put the...
Right, so basically the left will fulfill the lowest bar and get as much credit for it as these cows can allow.
Constitution over their political ambitions. I have to say, I think there were warning signs, though, that we would be where we are today. And most Americans were not comfortable with January 6th. They thought it was bad. They thought it was awful. But for 4 years, they said, guys, we are hurting. The cost of living is too high. We are concerned about the border. I predicted here 6 months ago we were careening to Donald Trump's inauguration. People needed to listen that, yes, democracy matters, but if you can't pay your bills, it's hard to care about something as nebulous as democracy. And I think that the warning signs were there. And I say this with due respect to Joe Biden. I didn't disagree with a word he said in that op-ed, but people were saying, we have concern about your age. He waited till August and then gave Kamala Harris this runway to run for president. All the warning signs were there. This was Democrats. They had the chance to stop Donald Trump from being inaugurated. And here we are. But I hope people don't. I hope the whitewashing of January 6th ends. It wasn't right. It never will be, no matter how much people lie about it. But this was avoidable in my mind.
Well, and I think that...
The whitewashing of January 6th is basically what the left has been, and the mainstream has been trying to do, okay, for the past 4 years. Okay, that is the whitewashing. Okay, luckily, okay, because of Jim Johnson and a lot of people within the House of Representatives, we've come to find out that there were some things about that were not absolutely and utterly kosher. There were a lot of FBI agents that were in that crowd. The Capitol Police, again, were leading people through the basically hallways. Some people were saying to try to mitigate the damage, but no. I mean, if you were that terrified that something like that was going to happen, and this is basically what they say, okay, is what they were terrified of, then why again did Nancy Pelosi deny the National Guard coming in to watch D.C. at that point in time? It makes absolutely no sense. But again, the whitewashing is what they are trying to present January 6th as. Remember, this is their Reichstag moment, okay? This is the moment that they thought that they could permanently switch public sentiment over to the Democrats and away from the Republicans, and they failed.
It's an important thing is to commemorate it every year in a way, not to compare it to 9/11, because, again, it's not an equivalent, but there are people alive today, including my niece, that didn't know 9/11. So when you talk to anyone that was alive during that time, you have a visceral fear response that takes you back there. January 6th and watching the videos that were playing out on screen, it shook you to the core.
Absolutely.
There will be a time when people will not know this unless they read about it, unless they're taught it. And hopefully we continue to show video every year on January 6th, because I won't tell you how to feel. You just watch that video and you tell me what you see. And I think it's also a reminder of how political and partisan the country's gotten to a dangerous point, because there's
all of that stoked by the Democrats. Okay, let's be realistic about this. The Democrats have stoked every bit, okay, of the ferocity between the two sides. And and the establishment of the Republican Party, okay, the rhinos of the Republican Party have not helped. Okay, they've gone along with this. Mitch McConnell has been brought in here. Mitch McConnell just played the politics. He was running for cover. Ted Cruz did the exact same thing. Oh God, who's that weasel's name from South Carolina? I can't think of it to save my life. Lindsey Graham. Okay, hit me up in the comments. What do you think of Lindsey Graham? Honestly, I think Lindsey Graham should be on the outside looking in as far as the new administration is. But then again, he's got a powerful hooks and everything, and he will pretty much weasel his way into anywhere.
To be an out of bounds, regardless of what party you're on. And I know a ton of people that are not rewriting this, that may have voted for Donald Trump, that are lifelong Republicans, who still say January 6th was a disgrace. So it is one thing that we can all agree on and need to remember every anniversary.
What do you think, Anna?
I'm incredibly grateful to the January 6th committee. I'm incredibly grateful to the members of that committee, including Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, the two Republicans who agreed to serve on it.
Now, again, they said they agreed to serve on it, and that's absolutely true. They did, okay? But they were invited on because the Democrats knew that Cheney and Kinzinger were going to do what they wanted them to do, okay? This was the establishment rearing its ugly head and coming down on Donald Trump, okay? This was not necessarily Democrats and Republicans. Remember, there is a singular entity that is moving this government, and it's not been elected by the American people, okay? That's what we call the establishment, the managerial class. And this is what Donald Trump's trying to stop, and God help him, I hope he does, okay? But this was, again, okay, those two people, they were representative of that faction, okay, of that internal body that is moving the country. So, you know, if you were going to say, you know, okay, thanks to the January committee for inviting these two, Jim Jordan would have been one of them, and he was supposed to be one of them. And Nancy Pelosi threw the curtain down, and that's how we got the dude that we got.
Because no matter how much they try to rewrite it, erase it, whitewash it, just lie about it, the truth is in that report, and it will stand. It will stand the test of time. I'm also very grateful to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for putting democracy first, Constitution first. A few days ago, Kamala Harris was swearing in as vice president. She swears in the newly elected senators. It included senators like Ted Cruz. It included senators like Dave McCormick from Pennsylvania, who attacked her. But you see, it's not about her. It's about the Constitution.
And every vice president does that.
Yeah. And she's going to perform her duty today. And she's not just the vice president. She's also the woman who lost to Donald Trump. But she is a mature adult, not a toddler having a tantrum. She is a leader who understands that it is country first. She's going to go to the swearing in and watch him swear in, unlike what he did not in 4 years.
Okay, then again, okay, remember this, all right? There were very glaring, okay, instances where you could say that the 2020 election was not quite kosher. And you can't deny that. You cannot deny that if you're actually looking at the facts. And Donald Trump, okay, for all of his faults, okay, does let his emotions get the best of him at the times, okay? And this is why he wasn't going and making the show of it at that point in time. But again, look at Kamala Harris, okay? Look at what she was doing while she was doing that. That woman was dying inside every second that she was up there. And amazingly, she wasn't drunk, because I don't think she would have been able to do it if she had been.
We're missing something, if I could say real quick. We're missing something in the moment, though. I heard from a lot of people, because I testified before the committee, I testified before the Department of Justice. I met a lot of people who are like, we'll never like January 6th. It was never okay, but they were still voting on the issues that impact them the most. And I think it's very hard if someone says, I had more money when this person was in office, to say, but you have to care about democracy, or you have to care about the attack on the Capitol.
Well, you do, because if you don't have a democracy, you're not going to be getting you're not going to get the job. I mean, we'll never probably ever agree on this.
So that's it, folks. That's where you have it. That's the ladies of The View, who basically are painting the establishment's picture of what happened on January 6th. Sunny Hostin is using as much hyperbole as she possibly can to try to stoke the base, the Democrat base, into believing that this actually was what they want them to believe it is. And again, if this had been an insurrection, okay, there would have been one hell of a lot more gunfire and a lot more dead people, all right, if it had been an actual insurrection by conservatives, okay? Let's just get that out of the way, because we know, okay, conservatives come armed. All right, and that is it. So, guys, thank you very much. Thank you for listening to me today. Like, share, subscribe, hit that comments. I love the comments, really do. And again, subscribe, guys, subscribe. All right, so thank you all very much. I hope you're having a great day. Later.